Good morning, everyone. I'm John Murphy. It's a pleasure to be with all of you here this morning, and above all, to join two outstanding leaders representing the United States and guiding U.S. policy towards Latin America and the Caribbean. Two women of principle and experience, and we're just delighted to have the two of them here with us this morning. We're joined by Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo and by General Laura Richardson, who is commander of the U.S. Southern Command. So you have their bios, and I think many of you know them. Let's get right into it. Secretary Raimondo, let's start with you. The U.S. commitment with Latin America and the Caribbean is strong, and you've been very engaged on this. Tell us in your own words, what does the economic relationship with the region mean to the United States?
Yes, well, good morning, and thank you for having me. I think better than my own words are these photos of the General and I traveling together to Panama. It's critically important. We have a decades-long commercial relationship with the region. The U.S. is the largest source of foreign direct investment in the region, almost $10 billion of merchandise exports and trade. So I would say it's important insofar as it has lasted a long time. We have a special and historic relationship economically and culturally in the region. But right now, it's even more important than ever. Because we need to, and the General can speak to this, we want and need to draw even closer to these countries. And there's a moment now because U.S. companies are looking to readjust their supply chains so that they are more resilient and, quite frankly, less sole source dependent on China or maybe one country in Southeast Asia. And this region provides a fantastic opportunity for supply chain relocation, which is a job creator in these countries and good for American business because it is like I said, resiliency in supply chain. So I think right now we have a moment to really lean into this.
Terrific. General Richardson, I want to ask you essentially the same question, but through the lens of, from the perspective of the U.S. Southern Command. What does the region of Latin America and the Caribbean mean to the United States, to our strategic interests? Welcome your thoughts.
Thank you very much. And great opportunity to be here this morning, and good morning. But this region, proximity matters. This is our region. This is the Americas. This is our neighborhood. This is the hemisphere in which we all live. The importance of this hemisphere in terms of the proximity matters. But the richness, not just to mention the family ties and the cultural ties and the remittances that are a big part of this region too, but it's the over 60% of the world's lithium is in this region. The rare earth elements, gold, copper, you have the Amazon, the lungs of the world, the biodiversity with the Amazon. You have light sweet crude that was discovered off the shores of Guyana. The fastest growing economy, 25% GDP increase over the next 5 years is anticipated for this country. The potential to feed and fuel the world. Over 25% of the global agriculture and fisheries are in this region as well. A lot of talk in 2014 about this region being able to feed and fuel the world, but not so much anymore. It's starting to come back, but COVID has put that back quite a bit. 170 million people thrown into poverty as a result of COVID. On average, an 8% reduction in GDP. If I take the hardest hit country, about 18%. And so the bounce back was initially the first year was good, but now that has slowed. So the economies are still trying to recover. So just like the Secretary said, this is a call to action. This is a call to action for Team USA as part of Team Democracy to get the economic bolstering back into the hemisphere. And how do we realize this region to feed the potential, reach that potential to feed and fuel the world?
So as you can all hear, there's a great deal of alignment here from these two key institutions of the U.S. government. Let's let's dig a little bit deeper on the idea of economic security. You know, it's become a truism to say that economic security is national security. Secretary Raimondo, what does that mean to you, and what does that mean to the relationship that we have with this region?
Yeah. I mean, it should be a truism because it is, in fact, the case, which is why I went to Panama with General Richardson to show up together as a physical manifestation that the two are linked, and we'll probably do more travel together in the region. I'll give you just one very concrete example. I spend a lot of my time on the semiconductor industry. The US Congress, about a year ago, passed the CHIPS and Science Act. It sent $50 billion over to the Department of Commerce for us to make investments in US manufacturing of leading edge semiconductors, and not just leading edge, current mature research and development, et cetera. Not all of semiconductors should be made, packaged, tested in the United States. That's not a reasonable goal. Having said that, 95% of it is now in Taiwan. Almost all of the chips used in the United States military are tested in China. So that level of dependency on a couple of countries in Southeast Asia is, like, obviously on its face bad for our national security. I think we could all agree that having all of the chips in our fighter jets tested and packaged in China and Taiwan is a problem for our national security. Mexico, Costa Rica, other places in the Western Hemisphere are fantastically situated to do testing, packaging, assembly of these chips. As the General said, proximity matters. I'll give you an example. TSMC and Intel, two great chip companies, are expanding in Arizona. They want their suppliers, both the upstream suppliers as well as testing and packaging, closer to them. Not going to be in the US, closer to them. So what better region than Western Hemisphere, Latin America, to partner with the United States? Helps our national security, has our supply chains be less concentrated in one area of the world, and creates jobs in the region. And that's just, I just picked semiconductors, but the General mentions lithium, same thing. I mean, to the extent that the United States is dangerously dependent on a single country to source any one of our critical minerals or products, that makes us weaker as a country, not just economically, but national security. So that's why I have so much energy for this topic, because there is a moment right now. The Inflation Reduction Act, same thing. I mean, the United States is making unprecedented investments in our own advanced manufacturing and supply chains. So let's seize this opportunity for countries in the region to participate in that.
You know, I'm currently reading the book Chip War, which is this terrific account of the emergence of the semiconductor industry. But
it's amazing how he makes semiconductors so exciting.
Yeah.
If you haven't read the book, you should read the book.
Yeah.
It's an easy read.
You know, it's sort of a 70-year history. But one of the points that really jumps out is a lot like what you're saying, that, you know, there was a lot of international cooperation in the emergence of the semiconductor industry. You know, the Dutch firm ASML, which does the lithography, there's Japanese firms. The United States has worked closely with allies. So it's not about autarky. It's not about making it all ourselves. So what you're saying is that working with allies, and you named several countries in the region, that's part of the solution of strengthening our own semiconductor base here in the U.S.
Absolutely. Like I said, we cannot innovate, design, manufacture, package, and test everything in the United States. We don't want to. It's not feasible. It cannot happen. We do, though, need to work with our allies. Like the General says, team democracy. We want to do business in places that we can trust and that are close. So this is, and I've talked to many companies, like I said, the ones in Arizona. It's just a perfect fit. It's a huge opportunity if we can align with countries in Latin America.
General Richardson, for you, what does this theme of economic security being national security mean? I mean, you think about national security threats, of which there are several in our shared hemisphere. How do you see the two tying together?
I think it's absolutely, they're inextricably linked, and in our President Biden's national security strategy, talks about the Western Hemisphere and how it's inextricably linked, the Western Hemisphere, the security to our national security in the United States. And so again, I look at what has happened over time, and with the 60 Minutes interview, if some of you didn't see that, I encourage you to watch that this past Sunday with our FBI director and our Five Eye intelligence directors from Canada, UK, New Zealand, and Australia, together for the first time doing an interview, and talked about the biggest threat, the biggest global espionage threat to our democracy is what the People's Republic of China is doing in stealing our data. Mm-hmm. And it goes across the spectrum, not just in national security, in governments, healthcare, agriculture, and with the secrets of technology that are getting ready to change the world and what is happening in the stealing of that data. And so the national security piece of this, as the Secretary was talking about, where the chips are tested, those kinds of things, everybody here is a part of national security. You are part of economic security, but you also must consider yourself part of national security as well. And part of that effort with like-minded democracies, this global espionage threat is the biggest threat to democracy, is what they said. It's the first time that intelligence professionals have gotten together to talk about this threat, and it was pretty bold. And really, as we think about that, we all have to do our individual part to protect national security, because there's a lot at stake. And when you see that, I talk a lot about the Belt and Road Initiative. 22 of 31 countries in this hemisphere have signed on to that Belt and Road Initiative. And additional 4 countries have PRC projects in their countries. It's all in critical infrastructure. Why is that? Why do I have the most space infrastructure from the PRC in this hemisphere? Why all the investment, looks to be investment, in deep water ports? We were at the Panama Canal. Why are there Chinese state-owned enterprises on each side of the canal? Why are they building bridges across the canal? Why are there all of this looks to be investment? 5G technology, I call it digital authoritarianism. We have to be really careful about what's happening. It looks nice, it sounds nice, but when you really look at it, the population surveillance technology, we really got to be concerned about it. And again, businesses, the business community, the private sector, you got to be telling your governments the security of 5G matters. Who we select as a 5G for our country matters for national security, your own national security. When a communist government is offering, I would say 24 in this, just for statistics, 24 countries in the hemisphere have 3G or 4G technology from the People's Republic of China. When it comes time for a 5G tender from the countries, they're almost offered a zero or a very discounted rate to upgrade to the PRC technology. There should be concerns and questions that we ask about that. So the business community, the private sector, you got to tell your governments that the security of the data matters.
Can I just emphasize that? I think that was incredibly well said, and why we are working together. If I say to you national security, the image that may come into your mind is weapon systems, right? You might think of, I don't know what you think, some kind of weapon system, carriers, fighter jets, et cetera. And of course, that is true for national security. But increasingly, national security is about technology. These dual-use technologies, artificial intelligence, big data, semiconductors, sophisticated semiconductors, and that's why, and I'd say now more than ever. I mean, if you think about the capability of advanced artificial intelligence for good but for evil purposes, it's mind-boggling. And that is technology where, as the General said, the US currently leads the world, but China is trying desperately to get our technology, steal our technology, catch up with their technology, put it into their military to, do bad things that hurt Americans and the people of your countries, as you say, anti-democratic. So to the extent that we can work together around technology, 5G, O-RAN, big data, artificial intelligence, semiconductor, it will make your countries less vulnerable, more secure, and help this region to be economically prosperous, right? Testing and packaging semiconductors in Costa Rica or wherever is a good thing. It will create jobs there. It'll also make your country and our country that much more secure and safe. And these dual-use technologies, we have to focus a lot more on them. And data is a perfect example.
I think you both are making the point very well, and I think it's well understood here that these are new times, and these issues affect all of us. I do think that there's while on many issues in the business community on the need for more ambitious export controls, the new outbound investment screening mechanism, I think the business community gets it, and there's been a lot of engagement, and it's been very positive, I think. Sometimes, though, the line about economic security, there are people out there who use it really just as a pretext for protectionism. If you don't have X, then you don't have a country. And I think that what I hear coming out of your comments is international engagement is often a key part of that economic security. You think about how the United States has benefited from legal immigration over the years, coming back to chips. Mm-hmm. People like Andy Grove, who was a refugee from Hungary, Morris Chang, who came from China. These people built the U.S. semiconductor industry. It was about being open and cooperating with friends and allies and partners. That was a key part of strengthening that economic security. So economic security is national security, and it really does mean working closely with our partners.
Without question, which is, as I say, that has doubly beneficial. I mean, having manufacturing facilities in Latin America creates good, high-paying jobs there. I mean, the General references the Belt and Road Initiative and PRC kind of state-sponsored investment. U.S. private sector investment into the region over time is still greater and doesn't come with the nasty strings attached that could erode your country's national security. So what I'm suggesting, and I think what we're suggesting, is there are opportunities to create economic prosperity in your region and also enhance your and our national security. And because of the Inflation Reduction Act, the CHIPS Act, our focus on feeding the world, the emphasis on, clean technologies, and the richness of your region, whether it's the Amazon or lithium or whatever, like there's a moment now that we can do both. And it's on every one of us to figure out how to do both.
Absolutely, and we've really appreciated the partnership with the Commerce Department and the ongoing engagement with implementation of the CHIPS Act. General Richardson, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about what we're seeing in these photographs here and your trip to Panama. And, is this work that can be applied more generally across the region?
Absolutely, and just to reemphasize the Secretary's points, again, I think this is a call to action right now. We've got to raise the profile of U.S. companies that are in the hemisphere, that are already in the region. We've got to talk about the importance of what U.S. investment does, what U.S. companies do with transparency, environmental standards, labor standards. We hire the local workforce. That's not done with the Belt and Road Initiative by the Chinese. The Chinese bring their instruments of national power together very nicely in the Belt and Road Initiative. I would say Team USA, we have all the pieces, the diplomats, the information, the military, and the economics. They're all there, but we don't bring them together as a coherent fashion, integrated. We don't brag about it. We just get in there and we do our business and we get out. We don't talk about it, but we need to talk about it because the leaders are not seeing it. The presidents of countries in Latin America and the Caribbean are not seeing the U.S. investment because we're not talking about it. And we've got to do our part as part of Team USA and part of Team Democracy. We see in the region a lot of irregular migration. Families are on the move in historical, unprecedented numbers. They're not staying in their countries. We've got 7 million pouring out of Venezuela into an already economic strapped region that's having a hard time. The complexities with illegal logging, illegal mining, illegal fishing, drug trafficking, human trafficking. There's a lot of things that are happening in the region. And how do we overcome that? How do we help countries that are being consumed by this? We can help with that. And the economic investment is really, really important for Team USA, because I would say when you ask all these folks, all these migrants where they're going to the United States, and they're going to realize the American dream. But how can we make the American dream be the America's dream? How can we make the American dream be the America's dream? The potential is there. We've got to raise the profile of our U.S. companies, and this is what this showcases. Over 250 U.S. companies in Panama. You wouldn't know it, but they're there, and they're doing great things, but we got to talk about it. We got to raise the profile.
That goes along with your point about critical infrastructure. I mean, if the PRC makes a big investment in a deep water port, you see it. You and your citizens see it. And of course, there's, billboards everywhere that highlight it. Those are highly visible projects. They're also projects that could deeply undermine your national security if, as the General said, your data is being stolen, et cetera. So I agree with you. I think the U.S., in partnership with you, has to do a better job of, for lack of a better term, like branding or marketing all of our U.S. private sector foreign direct investment, because it's there, it's creating jobs, it's been there for decades, it doesn't come with strings attached, and it's just not like quite literally visible. And so we have to do a better job of lifting it up and making it more visible. Prior to this job, I was the governor of my state, and I learned one very important lesson. People, you wonder, like, what do people think of government? People know what they see, like literally what they see. And so something I did with a huge road project, it didn't matter that we spent $10 billion and it was the biggest infrastructure project in Rhode Island's history. We put a sign on every bridge and road which says on time, on budget. And so there were at one time hundreds of signs around our state. It made a difference. People could see this bridge, this road, this dam, this port brought to you by a particular thing. So I think the point about marketing, which is harder to do when it's hundreds of private sector investments, is an important one, and we need to figure it out together.
I think that's a terrific point, and especially for this group, the 23 AmChams that are here together represent about 20,000 American companies invested across the hemisphere. I think the total direct employment by U.S. companies in the region is about 3 million, with maybe threefold indirectly. In many countries, they are some of the largest employers and certainly some of the largest exporters from many countries. Absolutely making a huge difference in terms of the progress that these countries have seen, often some of the very best jobs available, people getting ahead in life thanks to these investments. I think you're absolutely right. We need to do a better job telling that story. So as we conclude, any last thoughts on that theme or anything that we failed to cover here?
Well, I would say that you are Team USA's ground game. You are the ground game, and you make things happen. And right now, our leaders in the region they have complex challenges that they're dealing with. I work very closely with the military and public security forces to help them, all based in professionalization of their forces, the rule of law, and human rights. And what you do matters. It absolutely helps with national security. And how do we, again, help the Americas realize the American dream to be the America's dream, for folks to stay put in their countries, to have a successful life, be able to raise a family, be able to make money, and be successful. How do we do that? And you're a big part of that. You are the ground game. Team USA is part of Team Democracy in the region. And I really want to thank you for what you do and the partnership going forward. Thank you.
That was so well said. Thank you for having me. And just know that the Commerce Department and our Foreign Commercial Service officers who are in the region are incredibly energized to work with you. We are depending on you. You are on the ground, as the General said, our ground game. There's a moment now, and I look forward to working with you together to seize the moment for our mutual economic prosperity and national security.
Well, thank you both so much. I guess I'll close with just one idea. Wouldn't it be interesting if the federal government had a program where the two of you could swap places for a week? And wouldn't that be a lot of fun?
Oh, that's very funny.
Anyway, thank you so much for being here, both of you,
Thank
and
you.
everyone. Please join me, and thank you.